friends. How's it going? Is anybody thrilled it's Friday as much as I am? Raise your hand. I hope you are catching me live. If not, catch the replay. We're going to talk about sugar today. For those of you who are new to the group, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Reach out if you have any questions. Literally make yourself at home. This is your safe place. If you've never met me, my name is Sam. As you know, I'm from over at Team Sam Fitness. I'm an RN personal trainer, certified weight loss coach. To simply put it, I teach women over 40 how to lose weight, boom, how to keep it off. Founder of A Healthy Life Academy. Enrollment for you starts tomorrow. Excited about that. So now let's talk sugar. Scary? Yay? Nay? No? How do we feel about it? Lots of misconceptions about sugar. You may hear sugar's the enemy, nothing's wrong with sugar, we need sugar, whatever. It's coming from all directions, right? I've said it before too. Sugar's the enemy. And that's yes and no. I mean, I could be honest to say maybe yes and no. It's the excess amounts of sugar. That's what's killed us, is that the statistics on how much sugar we are consuming on a daily basis is astronomical. I haven't looked it up, but seriously, if anybody looks up what the average amount of sugar is we consume in a day, a month, a year, whatever, y'all let me know, because that's what's crazy, is the amount of sugar that we partake in. Y'all get me? Y'all, my nose is itching. I'm sorry. Whew, company's coming, I guess. So sugar. Sugar's our energy source, okay? We have to have sugar for life. But again, it's just the excess amounts of sugar. So what I want to talk about is exactly what happens inside our body whenever we consume the sugar. I teach by the glycemic index. So exactly what does that mean? The glycemic index is a standard of measurement that measures how quickly any food, converts to sugar in our body. Because, again, if sugar's our energy source, then our food that we eat it's got to convert to that sugar for our energy source. So it's fuel. Okay, so sugar is fuel for our energy. So most foods turn to sugar whenever we eat it. All with the exception of like your meats and proteins and stuff like that, with the exception of those. So think about carbohydrates turn to sugar. That's why carbohydrates are not necessarily the enemy either here. And we'll talk about that. Green beans, y'all, turn to sugar. Brussels sprouts, sugar. It's our fuel. That's our energy source. But what we specifically have to pay attention to, and this is an important part, is how quickly that food converts to sugar. So for example, the glycemic index measures from 0 to 100. 100 being it's sugar just like that. Boom. It doesn't have to go through hardly any digestion. It's absorbed rapidly right in your bloodstream. And Vivian mentioned honey. So think about honey as being 100. Honey literally has a glycemic index number of 100. That's instant fuel, instant sugar. As opposed to that green bean that I mentioned that turns to sugar. I don't know what the specific number is, but you can bet it's on the lower end, like probably in below 20. Okay, so it's going to convert to sugar very slowly. And again, you can look these up. I just don't know the numbers. Too confusing for me. You get the idea. But I want you to see the difference between, for example, green beans, vegetables. You got different fruits, okay, may convert slower than that teaspoon or tablespoon of honey. Honey being 100. Now, that sugar, once we consume it, It's doing the same thing. Sugar, sugar. Now, of course, you're going to have your white refined sugar. It's processed. That's another story for another day, okay? As opposed to natural sugars. And of course, I'm always going to root for natural sugar. But once in the body, it's doing the same exact thing. It's providing our energy source. Now, how does that relate to weight loss or weight gain? Both weight loss, weight gain. So whenever we eat a piece of sugar, piece of fruit, or consume some sugar, regardless of what it is, if it converts very quickly, okay, boom, it's absorbed really quickly, our body has to respond to that because now we have sugar in our bloodstream. We can't live with high sustained blood sugar levels. We will die if we live with high sustained blood sugar levels that exceed the norm. That's whenever you're talking diabetes, and if it stays really high and we don't do something to bring it down, bad news, okay? So what has to happen is our insulin has to kick in. Our insulin responds to that sugar now in our bloodstream. So you got two things happening. Sugar level rises. The insulin comes into play here because it's going to bring the sugar down. Insulin causes fat storage. Y'all see where I'm going with that? Sugar spikes. Insulin's got to be released to bring it down. Fat storage happens. Insulin causes fat storage. So that's where it ties into weight loss, weight gain. Sugar, sugar. Okay? So then, where does that leave us? Does that mean I never eat sugar again? No, not necessarily. So what I teach is, let's look at foods that don't convert as quickly. Okay? So for example, if you've got those fruits and vegetables, they're going to convert to that sugar in your body during that whole absorption and digestion process. They're going to convert slower, therefore not spike that sugar sky high that quickly and not send in the insulin army that quickly. So therefore, you're less likely to store that fat. Does that make sense? If y'all get me, if y'all watching the replay, please comment, ask me questions if y'all are understanding that. So that's where that comes into play. So for example, when would we eat honey? Well, for one, it's a natural sugar. It's a natural sugar. I don't have any problem with honey. If you'll notice, like your marathon runners, your athletes, a lot of your protein bars, energy bars that are natural will contain honey. And the reason why is because they need that quick energy. So if they're running a marathon, 26 miles, and they're needing sustained energy and that quick energy to keep them going, they're going to eat some high sugary foods that will convert very quickly and give them that energy rush. Because think about it, after you drink a Coke, eat a candy bar, whatever, you can bet within the next 30 minutes or so, you probably have that rush of energy. That's why we have that afternoon cup of coffee for the caffeine or the sugar. That's why we stay on the Cokes, okay? Because we like that energy rush. Whether you think that's why or not, your body knows that that's what it needs. Your body gets addicted to sugar just like cocaine. So your body craves that sugar. The more we put it in, the more your body's going to crave it. So whenever you drink that Coke, you probably notice that rush of energy. But then think about what happens after about 30 to 45 minutes after it wanes off. That's because your sugar spiked, you've got an energy rush, but now you've got that insulin that's got to come in and bring that sugar down because you cannot live with that sustained high blood sugar. So that process in itself, with that sudden release of insulin as well, is what will cause your body to store fat. Hallelujah. Y'all get me? Now, how do we combat that? Okay, so what I teach, again, let's look at foods that don't convert very quickly. That's the first thing. Let's look at foods that don't convert very quickly. Let's try to eat foods that convert slower. Because I mentioned carbohydrates. Well, that doesn't mean we're not going to eat carbohydrates, right? We got to have carbohydrates. But let's compare a white potato and a sweet potato. A white potato, along with your other high starchy vegetables and carbohydrates, butter beans, not a vegetable, it's a carb. Your peas, high starchy carb. So think about those high starchy foods convert to sugar very quickly, causing that same scenario. So now why don't we replace the high starchy foods? Why don't we replace that white sweet potato with a y'all get what I'm saying. That white potato with a sweet potato. Let's replace the white potato with a sweet potato. Here's why. Sweet potato, higher in fiber. Higher in fiber. Nutrient dense as opposed to the white potato. Higher in fiber as opposed to the white potato. Higher in fiber. Key word there, higher in fiber. So guess what happens? The fiber, along with those nutrients, those added nutrients in your sweet potato versus the white potato, will slow down the conversion of the sugar transformation. So instead of white bread, let's go with whole grain. Instead of your white potato, let's go with a sweet potato. Instead of your white rice, let's go with brown rice, whole grain rice. And the reason is the same exact thing. Higher fiber, nutrient dense, slows the sugar conversion down, prevents the surge of sugar, prevents the surge of insulin. Your body's going to use that energy. Fat's not going to get stored. And all the angels started singing. Y'all get me? Questions? How does that sound? Okay? Think about that as you add fruit as well. Sugar in fruit is sugar. But let's compare drinking a glass of orange juice to eating an orange. Read the label. Read the ingredients on your on your orange juice. Full of sugar. It's natural sugar, but lots of sugar. Think about what it's going to do. It's going to cause the insulin surge, fat storage. But now, instead, if we ate an orange that's going to have more nutrients in it, plus the what? What does an orange have in it that you think a glass of orange juice doesn't? What's the word here I'm going for? Fiber. An orange is going to have fiber in it that's going to do what? Slow down that sugar conversion. Makes all the difference in the world. So, big deal with that. Big deal with that. Not saying that you can't ever have that white potato. Not saying that you can't ever have that white rice if you're put in a position and that's what you got to eat. But hear this. Here's a trick that you can do to get by. And you'll hear me post this on the wall. See me post this on the wall. Hear me say this. Adding a protein and fiber to every meal makes losing weight no big deal. Okay? The reason why your protein and your fiber is going to slow down the conversion, it's going to slow down the insulin surge, it's not going to cause that fat storage like just that Snicker bar is, or just the white rice by itself. That's why I always encourage, don't just necessarily eat a piece of fruit by itself. Pair it with some almonds, a boiled egg, a piece of string cheese. That's the principle, because I'm adding some fiber and some protein to it. Got it? Questions? Does that make sense? Does that help you with sugar? Now, the question came up too about coffee sweeteners. I prefer, if I'm going to use a sweetener, I prefer stevia, just an organic stevia. And the reason why, it's natural. Secondly, it doesn't cause that quick raise in your blood sugar like your unnatural sweeteners do. And you know, I don't tell anybody pretty much don't eat stuff. I don't have a list of don't eats except one thing, and that's aspartame. I've heard too many horror stories with aspartame because it's nothing but potent chemicals. It's fake, has nothing to do with sugar, and I've just seen too many dangerous things happen. So read your labels. If you see on the front of your labels as well that say sugar-free, low sugar, no sugar added, read that label, because if it's a product that is normally sweet anyway, it's going to be sweetened with something. So read your food labels to make sure it does not have aspartame. That's pretty much the only thing I tell people don't eat is aspartame, because I'm telling you, I just believe it's a killer. Here's an interesting note, and you're probably going to hate me for this. Check chewing gum. I've stood in the drugstore or grocery store aisle before and have literally read, yes, I'm that big of a nerd, I've read all of the labels on gum. Every one of them sweetened with aspartame. I've not found one yet that does not have aspartame in it. I mean, I don't even want it in small amounts. So that's the reason why I switched from a breath freshener gum like that to mints. That's how bad I hate aspartame, y'all. Yeah, so read your labels. Don't be pulled in by the marketing ploy that say, oh, sugar-free, diet is sweetened with something. If it says diet, sugar-free, low sugar, whatever, read your labels, because it's got to be sweetened with something, or it tastes like crap and you wouldn't eat it. Okay? That's why, that's social way of dieting. It's just all misleading, and it's just marketing ploys, and that's how society teaches us to diet. Oh, let's go with low fat or low sugar and low sodium. Badonk, okay? Marketing ploys. And that's another day, another lesson. We can get into that. But that's specifically about sugar. Any questions y'all have, feel free to let me know. If I got sidetracked, if I make you confused even more, whatever. But hopefully that shares a little bit of, gives you a little clarity there. Let me know. Let me know if y'all have any questions. I'll be happy to help. Alrighty, y'all. I'll see y'all next time. Have a great weekend.